Now we are going to get into choppy waters. For most people, the naked feminine body is a risque subject, to say the least. For some, it is an outright invitation for lewd acts, or at least horrible pieces of sexual daydreaming, or a kind of extension of the popular culture's misuse of the feminine body. Well, people have to realize that what you see in here is a direct continuation of great works, as good as I can, done by no less artists like Rubens, Rembrandt, Velázquez. You remember the beautiful Rockaby Venus, you know, that kind of beautiful nude in London, in the National Gallery. What I try to do is to use the feminine body to express different kinds of moods, such as the kind of quiet meditation of a situation like this, with the kind of inherent, obvious, unmeditated and over-intellectualized elementary beauty, the way Adam must have seen Eve for the first time. So that kind of elementary awe, that kind of basic respect to that kind of highly particular beauty, what the feminine body represents, I hope it is coming through. If not, you know, then indeed the whole thing is not a worthwhile experience. Certain moods are evoked by certain paintings. I call this quiet hours. Everything has this kind of low, warm emanation, something which is almost putting that rather casual studio scene into a kind of eternal perspective. There is something absolute here. There is something which is never changing and has a kind of inner presence. It's very hard to put these things in words. If you don't experience it, it is certainly perhaps my fault, you know, perhaps not. Here I am setting up a conversation with old masters. Painters do this. You know, we are not so much conversing between the model, that individual human being, and the artist, but between previous solutions, previous approaches to the same problem, such as Manet, the great French artist of the 19th century, was working with Olympia, for example. It's a very famous painting, or the relatively recent French artist Matisse. So I am playing a kind of referee between Matisse and Manet. And again, that kind of unique beauty, that kind of unique formations, the unique interaction of form, you know, what only the feminine body can produce, it's quite obvious here. You know that we have perhaps that kind of viewer is not big enough. It is a world of its own, and it is not comparable to anything. You know, even we can see this, or if you just concentrate on this area, we know exactly what we are talking about. You know, this has nothing to do either with in a medical sense of feminine anatomy or any kind of incitement. It is living in a purely abstract, but in the best word, you know, in the kind of interaction of its own forms by its internal laws. Now, you can compare the colors of this work to the color of the first one, which I did in 1966. Now you see, this is 1999, actually 98 here. You see the great difference there. Now, in this wall, you see again different moods represented by different settings and different action. For example, the first one is almost like a bird who is trying to fly away, but cannot. You know, it is a kind of inner torment, a kind of trying to get out, trying to move wings, you know, and trying to take off, but the surroundings are pulling her down. So it is stress, it is a struggle again. Certainly this is not a happy painting. This is, I cannot use any other word, this is tart. You know, it is a very mannish figure, a very sporty, very tense, boyish body here, surrounded by these colors which are almost close matches to her body color, and then of course this was a special challenge. This one is going back to that kind of Rubens, basically Michelangelo type beauty of the absolutely full-fledged form, which was dominating basically European Baroque art, and nowadays, thanks to Madison Avenue, has been squeezed out. You know, it is those people try to promote one kind of beauty ideal over and above everything else. You know, this has never happened in art history. We go back again to this kind of very primordial experience of the first Eve, who is moving so freely and so frankly seductive. Why not? You know, it's to deny that kind of dominating aspect of our life is really going through life with an eye closed, or both eyes closed. Here there is nothing seductive in this. You know, it is tiredness, quiet resignation. I call it winter. Because there is a kind of coldness, there is the kind of total loneliness of being helplessly exposed to the mercy of surroundings. As a matter of fact, I compare this area, you remember all these Titanic movies where suddenly the naval architecture breaks down and the cold water is rushing in. Here we have this kind of feeling. You see these cold colors all over the place which surrounds her. These surroundings are not really supporting her. They, in the worst sense, unnerve her, cool her off. Look at these surroundings here. You know how this is warmed up. You know, and she is part of that kind of central warming force. Here this is totally lacking. We are approaching the great human drama of birth and kind of preliminaries, you know, the kind of premonition of a young woman who never went through this kind of experience. And it is certainly turmoil and stress, and even worse, perhaps outright suffering. And she knows this. So what you see here, these kind of reddish colors which are denoting in the most literal sense that this is going to be a bloody event. It is not idyllic. It is not something which is perfume and smile and Hollywood. All right, from this we go to the exact opposite. And here is the exact opposite, you know. Indeed, this is about as artificial as it can get, you know, with this kind of precious, sweet, almost saccharine silk, you know, with the rich oriental patterns, with the mirrors, with the double light, with an artist who is obviously working on this painting. So this is a studio setup with its artificiality and with its glory and misery. You know, it is really the beautiful object. Woman as the good-smelling, appetizing, precious, kind of Hollywood image. You know, in my work by now, you should have gotten used to it, that there are certainly lots of tongue-in-cheek passages. If you start scratching the surface, it is not what it looks like at the first sight. I would like to call your attention to the kind of inherent painterly delights of what happens in here. Namely, that face is reflected back here, this kind of back and forth. I hope, I think my little device is letting me down. Perhaps not. Well, we can do this perhaps without it. So again, a very dense area as contrasted to something which is less dense, you know, but it has that kind of density, this kind of piling things up on top of each other, which is highly artificial. So we see here humanity at its raw, and here this is about as spruced up and as removed from that earthly aspect as it can be. Now, you might remember that when I discussed way back my self-portrait, I referred to Degas, who said that somehow the basic problem of painting is not so much color, but form. We are back again to square one, because what we are talking about, not only the kind of dreamy, elusive mood of this lovely sleeping woman, but again form. And we are talking about especially kind of passage in the painting, which I'm afraid, you know, my little device is not covering fully. So I am just trying to do what I can do the best. So perhaps the kind of interaction, how these forms are pushing and pulling each other, how they heave, you know, they have a kind of elementary geography, so to speak, you know, as if there would be mountain tops and peaks and valleys moving in a kind of majestic manner. There is nothing like this outside of this kind of phenomenon, which we incidentally call, in this case, model fallen asleep. So you see this kind of dramatic interaction of form, and at the same time it is coupled with a kind of fairy tale-like mood, such as you see this, not only the head is dreamy, but the colors are just as well, has this kind of bluebird type sweet kind of quality. So you see here it is impossible not to recognize the total impact of Western painting, or even I would go even further, the kind of beauty of 5th century or even Hellenistic Greek sculpture, the work of Michelangelo, the work of Rubens. Don't get me wrong, I am not trying to compare my quality to the quality of these masters, but the interest and the feeling and the world is the same. On the other hand, it is definitely modern painting. It is not a kind of nostalgic trying to fake something which we don't have anymore. Well, for the time being, I think I finished my rather sketchy guided tour. Each of these paintings represent different kinds of issue, and we can sit around and discuss them till midnight, but I think this gave some kind of a tool, some kind of an approach to the viewer, how to approach these, not only these difficult subjects, but even the so-called simpler and easier ones. Thank you very much for your attention.